Why the Roman Empire went bankrupt. Cold open. In the year 64 AD, a Roman coin called the denarius was almost pure silver. By the year 270 AD, that same coin was less than 5% silver, the rest cheap bronze dressed up to look valuable. That one shrinking coin tells a story of how the most powerful empire in the ancient world quietly went broke. Not through a single invasion, not through one bad emperor, through 200 years of small decisions that all pointed the same direction. Spend more than you have and hope nobody notices. They noticed the machine that needed feeding. At its peak, Rome controlled roughly 5 million square kilometers and somewhere between 50 and 90 million people. That's not a country, that's a machine. And machines need fuel. Rome's fuel was conquest. Every new province meant new farmland, new slaves, new tribute, new taxes flowing back to the capital. For centuries, the math worked because the empire kept expanding. Conquer a new region, loot its treasury, tax its people, repeat. But a system built on expansion has one fatal flaw. It only works while you're expanding. By the 2nd century AD, Rome had basically run out of places worth conquering. The borders stabilized, the easy money new provinces to loot dried up, but the machine still needed feeding. The military bill that never shrank. The second fix: squeeze the taxpayers. When debasement wasn't enough, Rome turned to its other lever: taxation. And Roman taxation in this period wasn't gentle. Emperors imposed emergency levies, forced grain requisitions, and eventually a system where local officials called curiales were personally on the hook to make up any tax shortfall from their own pocket. Imagine being personally financially liable if your town didn't hit its tax quota. Unsurprisingly, a lot of wealthy Romans started doing everything possible to avoid holding these positions: bribery, fleeing to the countryside, even mutilating themselves to be declared unfit for office, according to some historical accounts. Meanwhile, small farmers were taxed into losing their land altogether, often ending up as tenant labor on the estates of the rich, a slow bleed of the tax base the empire actually needed. Trade starts leaking money out. On top of internal bleeding, Rome had an external drain too. Wealthy Romans loved imported luxuries: silk from China, spices and gems from India, incense from Arabia. The problem: Rome mostly paid for these in hard gold and silver and got very little flowing back the other way. The frontier still needs defending from Germanic tribes in the north, Persians in the east, raiders everywhere in between. By some estimates, the Roman military ate up somewhere between 50 and 75% of the entire imperial budget at various points. And soldiers don't work for free. They expect pay. They expect it on time. And a Roman emperor who couldn't pay his army wasn't just facing an accounting problem, he was facing a coup. Plagues swept through the population. Persian and Germanic invasions hit a military that hadn't been reliably paid in years. At one point, the empire had multiple rival emperors simultaneously, most of them murdered by their own troops within months of taking power, over 24 claimants in about 50 years. This wasn't collapse from one cause. It was every fix from the last 2 centuries finally failing at once. Emperor Diocletian eventually tried to stop the bleeding, a new, more reliable gold coin, and in 301 AD, an empire-wide edict literally fixing maximum prices on goods on pain of death for violators. It didn't really work. You can't out-legislate the consequences of 200 years of debasement and overspending. The edict was largely ignored or evaded within a few years. Rome didn't fall because one enemy was too strong. It went broke the way most empires do, slowly, through decisions that each made sense in the moment. Shrink the coin a little, raise the tax a little, borrow against tomorrow to pay for today. 200 years of a little adds up to bankruptcy.